here is our next unit, Chapter 3 on migration. All right, and we're going to focus from emigration to immigration. Ooh, let's get to it. So what are we first going to talk about? All right, we're first going to focus on this very, very essential question here. Ding, ding. Why do people migrate? Well, you know what? Before we can talk about why people migrate, we have to figure out what is migration. So, what is migration? How crazy. It's a type of relocation diffusion. We learned about that before. All right, so migration is this. It's permanent movement of a person to a new location. Simple as that. All right, and so what is the difference between emigration and immigration? Well, when you're emigrating from somewhere. And when you're immigrating to a location, and that's the big difference. So M is from, Im is to. All right, so net migration. What this is, it's the difference between immigrants versus the emigrants. All right, so when a country has a positive net migration, that's when people are coming into the country more so than people are moving out of the country. All right, a positive net migration. So why would people migrate? Well, some of you probably already know that there are these factors called push and pull factors. So push factors literally pushing people out. All right, moving from one location to another, and then these pull factors like a magnet, right, attracting them to a new location. And there's a number of different reasons why people are pushed out of a country and why people are pulled to a different one. But you know what? In the sphere of human geography, there are three major kinds of push and pull factors, which are economic, cultural, and environmental. Let's talk about them. All right, economic. Listen, just think of jobs. When the economy's down, there are less jobs. When the economy's up, there are more jobs. All right, simple as that. These are push and pull factors. Cultural aspect, well, we have a specific example here, slavery or forced indentured servitude, where somebody is literally forced out of their own country for these reasons. But we also have probably the more popular one today, as far as culture is concerned, is political instability between different countries. This is also a push and pull. And last but not least, we have environmental factors. Now, on the push factor, it's all these mal-environmental factors, such as, hazardous regions, floods, hurricanes, not enough clean water. And the pull aspect of environmental is these beautiful, attractive, mountainous valleys and seasides and warm climates, where obviously everybody would want to live. Not always true. But nonetheless, people are pulled to these locations for these reasons and pushed for, again, different reasons. So what other push and pull factors are there? There's something called intervening obstacles. Now today, it's not as intervening, if you will, as it was before because we have improved methods of transportation. But nonetheless, bodies of water was a huge obstacle for people to go from place to place. Mountains to cross over them. Deserts, obviously, an issue for various reasons. Large land masses to get from one side of the country to the other. Now, obviously, not every country experiences that. And last but not least, climate. Extreme climate, such as very, very hot or very, very cold. All right, then we have a gentleman by the name of E.G. Ravenstein, or Ernst George Ravenstein, and he had a theory of migration, in fact, that he developed in the late 1800s. Well, he said this: most immigrants relocate a short distance and remain within their country. And he also said this, that long-distance migrants head for major centers of economic activity. This relates back to our push and pull factors, right? People might leave one country that has a very poor economy to a country that has a very good economy. All right. Anyways, we'll focus more on Ravenstein later. Now, these two elements of Ravenstein's theory can be broken down into internal and international migration. All right, internal migration. Listen, it's movement within a country. So let's say, for example, I moved from New Jersey to California. All right, that's internal migration. Now, why do people do this? Well, it's less traumatic of a move than moving from one country to another for various reasons. Hence, maybe you don't speak that language. All right, it's usually a shorter distance, and people are familiar with the culture. Obviously, if you go from New Jersey, let's say Delaware, it's not a big cultural change. Now, even in internal migration, we have other two factors, interregional and intra-regional. So hear me out. Interregional is movement from one region to another within the same country. That's like going from New Jersey in the Northeast to, let's say, New Mexico in the Southwest. Now, intra-regional is within the same region you're moving. So let's say the Northeast of the United States. We could go from, let's say, New York City to Whippany or vice versa, okay? Internal migration broken even further down into inter-regional and intra-regional. Let's go on to our next one, international migration. And this is just the permanent movement from one country to another. Now, this should be apparent, but there are much less people migrating internationally than internally, right? Just think about how many people move throughout the year, let's say just in the United States. More people move, obviously, within one country than they do to a different country. Now, within internal migration, there's two types. There's voluntary, where people move usually for economic reasons, and then there's forced, where people usually are moved for cultural factors such as, aka the slave trade to the right, or political instability. All right, and now we have another transition model. I know we're excited. All right, there's something called a migration transition model. This was developed by geographer Wilbur Zielinski. And he basically aligned his migration transition model with the demographic transition model. And he basically stated this, that people leaving from a stage 2 country are more likely to be international and interregional migrants than they are intra-regional. Zielinski also stated that stage 3 and 4 country, international migrants are usually from stage 2 countries. And that in fact, when people migrate within stage 3 and 4 countries, they're migrating intra-regionally more so than they are interregionally or internationally. And usually this intra-regional migration is from cities to suburbs. All right, so the fact is, who is migrating? Well, long distance speaking, all right, migrants are majority male. And here's the reason why, all right? Now, international migration, usually the reason why people are pushed out of a country is due to economic reasons, all right? Now, especially in the past, this is more true, that men were more likely to be employed over females. Hence, they took the long journey. Now, today, ironically, that's not entirely true at all. In fact, more long-distance migrants are female rather than male. Now, the other spectrum is that long-distance migrants are also traveling solo rather than with their families. Now, this is true because, let's say they go from one country to another, well, they like to test the water or see how it is in a different country before they send for their entire family. All right. These are also two principles from E.G. Ravenstein as well. All right. We'll talk more about this information in class. I will see you then.